Stretching isn't helping you to stay loose. And on this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're explaining why. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we're diving into this topic of stretching and why stretching is not helping you stay loose. We want to let you know that if you want to start taking action on what we're talking about today, that's exactly what we can help you with at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, where we specialize in muscle activation techniques. So all you need to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com, click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. All right, so this can be a controversial topic for a lot of people because we are indoctrinated into this idea that not only is stretching good for us, but it's something that we need to do, and it's something that, oh, I did it and I get this result of feeling loose, and so therefore I need to keep doing it in order to stay loose. And that is kind of the mindset that a lot of people have around stretching is, well, I can create this immediate change in sensation of I do it and then I feel loose. So in order to stay loose, that means I need to keep doing it. Truth of the matter is, that's not correct. And the reason why it's not correct is because it's not addressing the fundamental reason why you're feeling tight to begin with. And that's what we want to talk with you about today.
That's right. I think stretching is one of the kind of most interesting things about fitness, where it's kind of one of the only things where it's like, if a little is good, then more is better. So not only is it questionable about, we'll talk about what it might be doing and what you're hoping that it might be doing, but also the dosage recommendation is kind of interesting. But the idea that stretching brings about looseness, the amount that we actually see our clients and people in general actually reporting that being true is actually very low. Like, we think it brings about looseness, but then when we ask about, is it right? So now are you like Gumby after? And they're like, well, no, it comes back and, the tightness comes back really soon. Or things like that. So it's actually not bringing about the result that we think it's going to. And honestly, when I remember and think back to stretching, I honestly feel like the sensation that I got stretching was just a strong enough sensation to overpower the sensation of tightness, like the discomfort of tightness. Because often I've thought about that, like, man, if my back was tight, would at this phase of my life feel like I want to stretch it out? And I always feel like, no, because it's like, it feels like there's just another sensation that overrides it. It's almost like, I guess the best analogy that I have at this moment for some reason in my head is like when a woman's in labor, a lot of times if they're not going to get medication, a lot of the techniques to help them through it doesn't take away the pain of a contraction, but just distracts your brain. So it's like, holding a comb and smushing it into your hand or getting a stim unit or something to distract your brain. And so in my opinion, when I think back on like stretching, I always felt like that's what it was kind of doing. It was like, if I had tight hamstrings, let me do this thing called stretching. And it kind of distracted my brain from like the uncomfortableness of tightness, but it never actually made me feel loose in the end. So I always think that's so interesting that it doesn't actually bring about looseness, but the principle is that it should bring about looseness. So let's keep doing it.
Right, exactly. So here's what we're not saying. What we're not saying is if you stretch, you will not notice any change in the immediate kind of short term. That's not what we're saying. Because a lot of you listening might feel like, oh, well, I'm riding in my car right now. When I get out of my car, like I bend and I twist this way because my back's feeling kind of stiff or whatever. And then, that seems to calm down. If we want to call that stretching, okay, fine. And you're like, oh, I do that and it seems to calm down. Oh, okay, great. Or like, oh, when I wake up in the morning, like I move my arms this way and I twist my body that way. And, then like my back feels ready to go or whatever. Okay, great. We're not saying that for you, that hasn't been your experience. We're not saying that doesn't like quote unquote work in the way of like changing sensation in the short term. What we're saying is that doesn't ward off the tightness long term. It doesn't help you stay feeling loose, okay? It can create that short term of like, oh, I do it and then I notice something different in my body. Okay, great. But what we're saying is it doesn't help you stay feeling loose. And why is that? The reason why that is because why you are feeling tight in the first place has nothing to do with how much you are or are not stretching, okay? You're feeling tight in the first place because your body is intentionally trying to create tightness to help protect you from other areas of your body that are not functioning as well. It's literally a protection mechanism within your body of like your body is detecting that there is some underlying issue going on. And so the best way it knows to alert you that this issue is going on is by tightening up certain areas of your body. Maybe for you, it's your neck or your back or your hamstrings or your hip flexors, whatever it is. But when there's this issue going on, the way your body knows to alert you is by giving you this tightness sensation. And what we do, what our brains hone in on emotionally is the tightness sensation of like, oh, I need to get rid of that, all right? It's like if there's a fire going on in your house and the smoke detector goes off, we're all concerned about the smoke detector and not the fire, right? That beep, 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 beep of the smoke detector going on, that's the tightness. And it's like, oh my gosh, the smoke detector is going off. Let's turn off the smoke detector and then we're good. It's like, no, but there's actually a fire going on, okay? And so the question is, well, what is that fire that's going on within all of our bodies? In why is our brains then interpreting that fire as like, okay, well, we need to send a signal of tightness to let them know that's going on. That fire is muscle inhibition. In other words, you're having muscles within your body that are not contracting or not working in the ways that they're supposed to work, all right? The communication between your brain and your muscles is not working the way it is optimally supposed to work. And so in order to compensate for that, in order to alert you for that, in order to protect you from that, your body tightens up other areas. It tightens up other groups of muscles. And so what ends up happening is when we experience that tightness and we're like, oh, I'm just going to stretch it out, we didn't do anything to actually address the muscle inhibition. We shut off the beeping smoke detector, but we didn't do anything to actually put out the fire. And so what happens? The tightness comes back, which is why stretching can, in the short term, maybe create a change in sensation, but it's not going to help you stay loose. That's what we're talking about.
Charlie, I love that you brought up the smoke alarm analogy, because so many of us, like even when you're cooking, like, if something's beeping, telling you, oh, it's time to, change something with the pan, or, oh, your smoke detector is beeping, the first thing we think is turn off the alarm. Emotional, because we're like emotional humans, right? We think turn off the alarm, and then sometimes we're like, and then what's the issue, right? Like, let me address the issue. Versus let the alarm keep going until I resolve the issue and the alarm goes off by itself, at least with a smoke detector, not with a kitchen timer or anything like that. But you know what I'm saying. And so in the short term, if you have smoke and a firing off alarm, something that's beep, beep, beeping, it does feel more calm as soon as you shut that alarm off, right? Because your brain is like, oh, thank goodness that loud, screeching, annoying sound that always goes off, for whatever reason in the middle of the night, is gone. But sometimes we don't go back and say, oh, what's the issue, right? And so in our bodies, we think, oh, when we have this annoying, tight, sometimes painful, uncomfortable thing that's been there forever, tight muscles that we want to get rid of, our emotional brain always feels like get rid of that tightness, right? A presence of tightness means I should get rid of the tightness. But actually, the presence of tightness, just like Charlie was saying, is an indicator that there's something wrong. It's an alarm system of saying, hey, there's something going on. And that underlying going on thing is generally muscle inhibition. And muscle inhibition is something we solve all the time with muscle activation techniques. When we find that muscles are struggling to communicate well with the brain, we call those inhibited, or sometimes we describe them as like sleeping muscles or offline, or they're not working well, they're weak, like they cannot contract the way they're supposed to. And the way your body alarms you to say, hey, one of your glutes aren't firing, they tighten the other. Your body will naturally, just as a response, tighten the other glutes, or tighten your hip flexors, or tighten your low back. And that is an alarm system. And so when we think about our tight muscles, instead of saying, ooh, my low back is tight, let's stretch it. Oh, my low back is tight, telling me to get rid of tightness in my low back. It's actually a sign that says, hey, go search for the reason why I keep tightening up. Because our bodies are so smart. Every time you stretch that tight muscle, how often does it come back? All the time, right? Usually it's like immediately, like an hour later, as soon as you walk and your nervous system has time to like put things back together. And it's like, oh yeah, we still need that tight. We still need that alarm going. Yeah, the fire is still going. We still need to put that back together. So until you solve the reason why your body is giving you these alarms, aka tight muscles, it's very uncommon that your body will stop replacing them, and sometimes replace them with an even stronger and louder an alarm. And it gets annoying, right? And so that's why muscle activation techniques, people are always like blown away by like, oh, all we had to do was activate some muscles and now my tightness is gone. Because just like a smoke alarm, once the smoke is gone, you don't have to turn off the tight muscle or the alarm. It just naturally turns off because there's no reason for it to be like auto firing and alerting you. Just like tight muscles. As soon as we get inhibited muscles activated, tight muscles don't need to be there. So they just aren't there. And you don't have to do anything to release them. It's just your body re-regulates the tension and then you feel so much better.
Exactly, and that's really the thing, Julie, is once your brain perceives that threat is no longer present, meaning the muscle inhibition is not there, your muscles are functioning properly, it doesn't have a reason to keep telling you, oh, you need to be protected. It doesn't have a reason to keep telling you, oh, you're under threat. We need to tighten up these muscles. It doesn't have a reason to continue to compensate by, over contracting certain muscles. And so you're exactly right. The way we go about identifying which muscles are inhibited and then addressing them is through the muscle activation techniques process. MAT is specifically designed to address that issue of like, where in your body are your muscles not contracting well because there is miscommunication between your brain and your muscles, and then addressing that, getting those muscles contracting better, reestablishing that communication between your brain and the muscles, and reestablishing, your brain talking with your muscles and your muscles talking back to your brain and letting your brain know, hey, we can work. We are viable options for you to use when you're trying to complete our tasks throughout everyday life, whether it's, something around the house or an activity you're doing outside, whatever it is, your brain is constantly trying to figure out, okay, what's available for me to use, and it wants to be as efficient as possible. And so if it learns at some point during your existence that there are certain muscles that aren't as available, it's going to say, oh, okay, well, it's just easier if we don't keep asking if those muscles are available. We're just going to assume that they're not available. We are going to reroute and start using these other muscles to compensate around these ones that we're just going to assume aren't available. But rarely are muscles just like long-term not available, all right? And so what ends up happening is we develop these compensations of just defaulting to using the muscles that our brain believes are available and the muscles that could be viable, but because your brain doesn't recognize them as viable options, those go underutilized. And so with MAT, we're helping your brain become aware of like, hey, these muscles are viable options for you. And then it starts to learn, oh, those muscles are available. Oh, those muscles I can start to access. Oh, I don't need to just solely rely on these ones that I've been using to compensate with for the last 10, 15, 20 years. I can use my glutes the way I'm supposed to. I can use, my hamstrings, my hip flexors, my upper traps the way I'm supposed to, and not just rely on all these compensatory muscles. And then when that process starts to take place, that tightness that is being sent to different muscles throughout your body, that calms way, way, way down because that underlying muscle inhibition is being addressed, okay? So again, what we're not saying that, if you are experiencing some feeling of tightness and you do some kind of stretching motion, that you're not going to notice any kind of change in the short term. Because I think we can all say that, okay, yeah, like notice some kind of change in the short term when I've done one of those varieties of stretching moves. Okay, what we're saying is it's not going to help you stay loose long term, because the underlying issue of the muscle inhibition is not being addressed through stretching. However, through muscle activation techniques, it can be addressed. And then when it gets addressed, the tightness all by itself calms down without having to do the stretching. Okay. Now, if you're in a scenario where you're like, oh, but every morning when I wake up, like I just have to do my stretches. Okay, fine. Do what you need to do in the short term to go throughout your day feeling, like a functioning human being. Completely. I'm not going to tell you to not do that, but I am going to tell you to not just turn off the smoke detector, like actually address the fire that's going on as well. And that's what we can help you with at our studio, Muscle Activation Schoenberg, where we specialize in muscle activation techniques. So if that's something that you are interested in getting started in, that's something that we can help you with. All you have to do to get started with us is just go to our website, www.matschoenberg.com. We have a big green button there. You can click that says Get Started. You can see our availability. You can book the time that works for you. You can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. We've helped hundreds of people since our doors opened in 2014 with this exact issue of, this specific area of my body feels really tight all the time. And no matter how much I stretch it, it always comes back. It's because the stretching is not addressing the underlying issue of muscle inhibition. That's what we can help you with muscle activation techniques. All right. So, hey, thank you for joining us, everybody. Every single week, we always appreciate your time, your attention, your eyes on YouTube, your ears on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you consume our content. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a rating and review, it always means the world to us when you do. We're wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.